Hello, hello, and welcome. I am so excited to see you today. For those of you who have been with me in this series during February, Black History Month, I want to say thank you. And for those of you who are joining for the first time, you are so welcome to join this conversation. So, over the last few weeks, we've been talking about self care for Black moms. And we started out talking about emotional self care. We talked about financial self care just last week. And we had a really powerful session around self care during menopause. And that's a conversation that we just don't have enough. And so, I was so pleased and gratified to have that conversation with Candace McLaren Lanham. And so it was just a great conversation. Now, this week, I have invited back one of my dear friends for such a great conversation today. I have invited again Dr. Sha'Iri Turner Davis, who's going to be joining the stage just briefly. And we're going to be talking about mental self care for Black moms. And she is absolutely the best person to have that conversation with because we've already talked about mental wellness so many times before. So, welcome, Sha'Iri.
Hello.
Dr. Turner, how are you?
I'm great, Dr.
Yeah.
Pamela. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And we've had this conversation many times before. We've talked about mental wellness and, oftentimes the stigma with mental health. And you have such a long history with that whole area. And I want you to just, briefly share with our audience, the work that you're doing and how you got into it. And we're going to go from there with the awesome conversation.
Great. I'm really looking
Yeah.
forward to it. So I am Dr. Sha'Iri Turner. I'm the Chief Health Officer at Crisis Text Line. We
Mm-hmm.
provide free 24/7 mental health support by text in English and in Spanish.
Yeah.
But more importantly and relevant to this conversation, I'm a Black mom. I'm a wife. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm a mother. I'm a wife. Health and well-being have been
Yes.
so integral to who I am and what I've done over the course of my career.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the thing about it too is I do want to just kind of address this whole elephant in the room around stigma that's often associated, when we talk about, our mental health. And I don't know if you've seen it, but certainly I feel like, since COVID, the door has opened a bit to have those conversations where people don't feel like they need to hide their need for mental care. So what would you say
I would
about that?
say the door is opening, right?
Hmm.
Different communities are more open to having the conversation. I think for
Hmm.
our community, sometimes it's still difficult. People don't want to
Really?
be considered crazy, right? They don't,
Yeah.
all of the sort of negative uh,
Hmm.
wording and narrative around really just seeking mental health, like
Yeah.
our mental health and well-being and mental illness
Hmm.
real. I think
Yeah.
in this current day and age, right, something
Yeah.
we need to talk about.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And when you say that word crazy, I remember, just my own experience when I was younger. And I had gone to see a therapist. It was part of, the whole healthcare system back then. And when I had gone to see this therapist, I was telling my mom about it, in the car afterwards. And she was just like, something. She was like, baby, you're not going back there and again, because if you do, you will be crazy. And I just thought, whoa. And for me, it really was, that stigma where I felt like I couldn't, really seek care. And it wasn't until probably around the time of COVID, and that was, through my own children, encouraging it and talking about it, that I felt like, yeah, I can see a therapist and not feel embarrassed or ashamed about it.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Our young people are leading the way because
really.
they're more comfortable, right? I think coming
Yeah.
through COVID, having
Yeah.
celebrity role models who are stopping
Hmm.
or pausing their careers to
Yeah.
address their mental health has
Yeah.
given them a language, words to
Yeah.
use that we
Hmm.
didn't have. I mean, I remember
Yeah.
when I first saw a therapist, I was like, I'm going to pay you in cash because I don't
Really?
want to go on my insurance, right? And
Wow.
she was like, don't you think you deserve to have good
Huh.
mental health? And I was like, I do, but I'm still going to pay you in cash, right?
Don't want nobody to know
Right.
about
I don't
this.
want anybody to know. And that's too bad, right? Like
Yeah.
that is when instead of seeing it as a strength,
Hmm.
I was like, let me try to get myself help without
Yeah.
sharing that with anyone else. And
Hmm.
we've come far. We've
Yeah.
definitely come far.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And still a little bit of ways to
Oh,
go
yes.
as well. And, one of the things though, I'd like, for us to share, with those who are joining in today is, talking about those ways that we can take care of ourselves, even if it's not necessarily going to see a therapist, but some day-to-day things that we can do to just support our own mental self-care. And I'm not sure, some of the things that you do, but I mean, I would love to hear about that, and I'll share a few of my own as well that
Yeah.
support me. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I think we have to even back up and check ourselves about the
Mhm.
narratives that we
Yeah.
still may be carrying, right?
Yeah.
Most importantly, this strong Black woman narrative.
Oh
So
my goodness.
I,
Okay. You
I
touched a
invite us,
nerve.
yeah, I mean, I invite us really to
Yes.
retire that idea and that
Yeah.
we need to be strong all the time
I know
and,
that gets so
and not
tiring.
not need help because that shift in language is the shift
Mhm.
in the mindset, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we want to say I'm fine, I can do it all. I'm going to say yes
Mhm.
to everything. We wear
Yeah.
fatigue like a badge, right? When you have
Yes.
circles under your eyes, it means I'm
Yeah.
getting the work done, right?
Uh-huh.
As
Yeah.
opposed to saying, can you help me with this? Can you handle this?
Yeah.
And seeing
Yeah.
that as a weakness. And one of the things actually last year that I started
Mhm.
to remind myself of
Yeah.
was a couple of things. One is
Uh-huh.
like Kara Lawson, who's the
Mhm.
Duke women's basketball coach. She
Uh-huh.
had something to the effect of
Yes.
handling hard well, which
Hmm.
means that there will always be, we
Yeah.
all know this, something around the corner serious. Like if it's
Mm.
not our parents, it's something
Yeah.
at work, it's
Yeah.
the social climate, it's our
Mhm.
children. How do
Right.
you handle that? And what are the self-care pieces you put
Mhm.
together so that you can handle it, right? So that you
Mm.
can, and that's
Yeah.
different than saying, I'm going to be strong and do everything. That's saying,
Right.
life is going to come at me, but I'm very clear about
Mhm.
what I need. So to your
Right.
point, right?
Yeah.
What are the small things you need? And I think
Mhm.
for me, it's sometimes taking small moments, like,
Yeah.
on my way back from a doctor's appointment, I'm going to sit out and just have a cup of coffee in the sun,
Mm.
enjoy the weather, and do nothing
Mm.
else.
Yeah, but
Right?
see, you're in Florida.
Right. Well, of course, weather permitting. Okay, so you go inside, but the point is, like, taking
Yeah.
those micro moments, like
Right.
deep breathing, listen to your favorite song. Those are not
Mm.
superfluous things. Those are
Right.
actually part of your
Yeah.
self-care. You don't have to wait for a, spa
Mhm.
weekend. You
Right.
actually should not wait for the spa weekend. It's what can
Right.
you do in those important 5-minute moments. So I'll pause
Yes.
there. I've many more ideas, but
No, I know that's awesome. And I'm glad you started there, just with that whole trope around, being a superwoman, doing it all, being strong. And that just wears us down. And I know for me personally, it wore me down for many, many years, feeling like I had to do it all and say yes to everything. And so, I love that. I love that. And just bringing that up. And this actually part of, why I started this series 5 years ago, because I was seeing a lot of the same in so many of the moms that I worked with. And I love the word that you use, which I want to amplify, and that is the word micro.
yeah,
Micro. So
yeah,
it's really very small things that we could
yeah,
do almost on a daily basis that don't cost us anything to do, that can really support our own self-care and wellness. And just what you said with just taking a break.
yeah,
I don't know if you saw this research that was out. This was during 2021. And the research showed that because people were doing virtual meetings, they
yeah,
were doing them all back to back because they
yeah,
didn't have to go anywhere. But
yeah,
my sense of it, in terms of my own observations, is that we're still doing that
yeah,
even when we have in person meetings.
yeah,
We're stacking a lot of things back to back. And so having that time in between meetings, I think, is such self care. And so, like you said, with just even taking a break to have a cup of coffee and to just let your mind wander,
yeah,
or to think or to visualize,
yeah.
is such good self
Well,
care.
it's like protect your energy through good calendar management, right?
Right.
Because by creating a calendar
Uh
from
huh.
start to finish, from wake up to sleep to time
Yeah.
for bed, is a
Yeah.
way that you protect your energy with boundaries. So
Yes.
if don't get upset at
Uh huh.
yourself if your
Yeah.
meetings are back to back and you control your calendar. Because what I
Right.
do personally is well in advance of the month
Mhm.
that's coming, put
Yeah.
in work time that breaks up the
Yeah.
back to back, put
Mhm.
in the time you're going to go exercise, the
Yeah.
time you're going to
Yeah.
intentionally meet with your sister moms, because
Mhm.
that is a piece of self-care
Yeah.
that needs to be calendared either
Yes.
on a monthly basis, because
Yeah.
community is so important to all
Yes, it
of this.
is. It is so, so very important. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that. And, I actually came to know about the time blocking through you when we
Yes.
talked about that a few years ago. And, with that, one of the things that I do is I'll just have on my calendar appointment. That's
Yep.
all it needs to be there. It's
Yep.
shared with my team, but it's
Yep.
just an appointment.
Yep.
And, a lot of times it's just appointments for me.
Yes. Yes. And so it's about the blocking of that time for you,
Yeah.
and for you to know what that time is about. That time
Yes.
is for me to go do X,
Yes.
Y, or Z that
Yeah.
is going to nourish me. Nobody else
Yeah.
needs to be involved. But
Right.
I think of it like, a vase that's cracking, right? Like
Uh-huh.
you've got a lot of cracks, and each of
Yeah.
these little self-care moments is
Hmm.
some crazy glue into one or two
Yeah.
of those cracks to secure it, to make
Yeah.
it a little bit stronger so that it can go, it can
Hmm.
withstand another bouquet of flowers. But
Yeah.
the
Oh,
point
I love
is
that.
that you have to be intentional. Like the cracks
Hmm.
will continue
Right.
unless you are applying the glue
Yeah.
deliberately.
Yeah, I love that analogy. That is so beautiful. And, one of the things that I do that's around self-care, it, costs a little bit of money, but it's buying flowers,
Mhm.
and just kind of having, flowers on the table, on my desk during the week as, just part of my own environmental self-care. Because
Yep.
who wants to look at a cluttered desk?
Right. And that's you knowing yourself. And that
Right.
that gets to the
Yes.
point of, flowers are not for everyone.
Yeah.
Journals are not for everyone.
Yeah.
Meditation is not for everyone. But the point is,
Right.
whatever your self-care kit is, first of all,
Mhm.
know it,
Right.
right? Know yourself well enough
Yeah.
to know what shores you up, and
Mhm.
then implement,
Yeah.
right? It's one thing to have
Yeah.
the list of things that are very special for me, right?
Yes.
But then not plug them
Yes.
into your calendar. It does you no
Uh-huh.
good.
You're right, right. And I love that you said that in terms of just knowing what works for you, because that's been a theme across all of our conversations this month is that self-awareness. I mean, we talked about it, especially with emotional and even with financial
Yes.
self-care. And I think it's the same when we talk about our mental self-care as well. For me, like you mentioned about, journaling isn't for everyone, but I've found that, having that morning time to journal
Yep.
is just really therapeutic for
Yep.
me.
Yep.
And so it's, certainly a creative outlet, but also just being able to write free
Yes.
form,
Yes.
and not do it in a way that necessarily needs a digital interface.
Mhm.
And that's something we even talk with students about,
Yeah.
just kind of handwriting and just what that does to you.
There's a different I too like that time to
Hmm.
journal, because it's almost I feel like it's somewhat of
Yeah.
a spiritual download, right? Like, both
Yeah.
getting things out of your
Hmm.
mind so
Yeah.
other things can enter, and then the act of actually writing
Yeah.
is very therapeutic and clarifying, I think, as well.
Yes. Yeah, yeah, it is. It is. And you know that I've been doing a lot of running
Yes.
lately on my half marathon challenge of running in every state. And, part of the running itself is, mental
Yes.
self-care for
Oh
me
my
because
gosh.
I have so much clarity on
Yes.
those runs. I mean, this morning, I really didn't feel like running. I have a race
Oh,
this Sunday, but I just did not feel like it for whatever reason. But I knew that, in doing so, just how it would accelerate the rest of my day.
yeah, the
And so,
endorphins.
yeah, exactly,
Yeah,
exactly. And so
yeah,
that's been, my mental,
yes,
self-care as well.
yeah.
So yeah, yeah. Um, One of the other things that I wanted to talk with you about is, what you could share with us, as moms who have teenagers, because I know a lot of, perhaps the clientele that you have through Crisis Text Line are teens. And so,
Yes.
what would you say to our audience who have or love a teen and their family?
Bear with them and bear with yourself. Give yourself grace. So, our children are 23 and
Mhm.
21, so we've
Yeah.
made it through the teen years.
Mhm.
But these are very unique times with all
Yeah.
that's going on, politically, racially,
Mhm.
culturally, and then with the
Yeah.
overlay of this accelerated social media AI component
Oh,
that
yeah.
you really have to give yourself and your child a lot of grace. And
Yeah.
what that looks like, I think, fundamentally boils
Mhm.
down to listening.
Yeah.
Listening and good communication, because
Mhm.
quite honestly, we have 0 idea what it is like to be
Yeah.
a student in school at this point. We have
Right.
a peripheral view to it, but we have
Yeah.
0 idea. So,
Mhm.
in order to help our children, our teens in
Yeah.
particular, we must hear and validate their experiences and help
Mm.
them to build that resilience around,
Yeah.
how to problem solve. And I'll give a quick
Mm.
plug because I on LinkedIn, I have my Resilient Family series, and we
Uh-huh.
have, an article coming out
Mhm.
tomorrow about building how to build resilience in your child. So very
Yeah.
apropos, but we are not the experts on what it's like to be a teenager in high school. So let's start there. Let's
Yeah.
start with some humility
Mhm.
about the experience and listen
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
apply our wisdom, but in a way that is bi-directional with our teen.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, that's a good way. That's a good way to talk about it. And what would you say may be different when they're young adults? Because you mentioned
Yeah, yes, yes, yes.
for
So
your own
yeah,
children.
so it's important, right? Part of the
Mhm.
developmental process is, that we sort of see ourselves in an advisor role now, right? Like
Yeah.
where we provide insight and our
Mhm.
perspective, but
Yeah.
they have to, young adults, they have, in order to, you know,
Mhm.
continue on and have their own family, there's
Yeah.
still a trial and error. And,
Yeah.
we can't and should not still be saving our children at the young
Oh
adult
my
age.
goodness.
They
Yeah.
trusted advisors, guide from
Mhm.
the side, right? Like
Yeah.
that is what I want people to think. Guide
Uh-huh.
from the side.
Yes.
Do not get in there and plow the road for them. They have,
Mhm.
because doing it for themselves, even when there's bumps and bruises, will build that confidence. And
Mhm.
otherwise, it's like somebody needs to do
Yeah.
this for me, and you're just kicking that can down the road. And then you get,
Absolutely.
the narrative that I can't, as a young adult, do this without my parents. And we
Mm.
know this, right?
Yeah.
We're Gen X. Like we did it all, and we did it all early. And I think that's
Yeah.
part of our problem,
I
but
would
we
agree.
wanted to make it easier for our children,
Yeah.
but ease does not build, resilience.
Mm.
It's shaping and helping and discussing and figuring out with
Yeah.
them how to solve problems. So when they get to be young adults, they may
Mm.
have solved a set of problems, and
Right.
then they come to you with, something they may not have seen before. But again,
Yeah.
the fixer, you're the advisor, you provide perspective.
Yes. I love that. I love that, and I think that is so quotable. Ease does not build resilience.
Right.
It really doesn't. And, I think that's, very true of us as Gen Xers, having gone through what we went through in our own childhood of doing everything ourselves and being latchkey
Yeah.
in many cases that, we want better for our kids and want to ensure that they don't sometimes struggle the
Right.
way we did.
Right.
And so that makes for a different kind of parenting,
Yep.
I think. So
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah. So this has been an awesome conversation, Dr. Turner. I
Thank
want to thank
you.
you so
Thank
very much for joining me, and look forward to us, doing this again as we've talked about, perhaps during Mental Health Awareness Month.
you.
I'm putting that seed out there now.
Excellent. Excellent. As we usually do something. Yes.
Yes, yes,
Yes.
absolutely, absolutely.
I
So
did have
how
Oh,
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
No, go
No, I was
ahead.
gonna say I had a couple of words for the moms out there. I think
Okay.
one of the things we didn't talk on is just touching on, like, acknowledging
Mhm.
the cultural load, right,
Yeah.
that we are experiencing, and I
Yeah.
just feel really strongly about naming that reality, right? The
Yes.
racism, the sexism, the
Yes.
Black supermom myth that we talked about, all, and
Mhm.
and then just worry around,
Yeah.
schools and safety and AI and
Yeah.
finances. All of those things, we need to acknowledge them, right? And we need to
Mhm.
say, like, those exist, and what do I need? What's the special self-care for me that I need to,
Mhm.
um, to be able to withstand it? Not bear it all,
Right.
but, like,
Right.
walk through that storm, because 'cause we're gonna keep walking.
Yes.
We're gonna keep
Yeah.
walking.
That's awesome. I love that. I love that. So, how can our listeners stay in touch with you?
Yes.
You have your series on
Yes.
resilience and parenting. Is the
Yes.
name
So
of it?
My
Yeah.
LinkedIn series is called the Resilient Family Series. And
Okay.
about every other month or so, I put out an article.
Mhm.
The article this month is about how to build resilience in your child. These
Mhm.
are always like quick reads with some tips and tricks
Mhm.
and things to think about.
Yeah.
I can also
Awesome.
be found on at Dr. Shairi,
Mhm.
DoctorShairi on Instagram.
Yes.
And yeah, so I am
Mhm.
available that way and really, I just want to say, like, I appreciate all the moms out there who are doing
Yes.
all the things and just
Oh,
reminding you,
yeah.
you're not doing too much by caring for yourself, right? We're doing too much. No,
Right.
you're not doing
Right.
too much by caring
Right.
for yourself. And I
Yeah.
also wanted to one more time provide Crisis Text Line as a resource because it's not just for
Mhm.
young people. It is
Yeah.
for our moms as well. When you are
Mhm.
in that moment and need support, you can
Mhm.
text
Yeah.
share to the number 741-741 and
Mhm.
receive that in the moment support in English or in Spanish, provided by our
Yeah.
trained volunteers who are supervised by our excellent mental health professionals.
Wow, that is awesome. That
Yes.
is awesome. We
And it's
needed a
free.
banner for that. We
Free.
needed a
Yes.
banner with that number on it. Say it again.
It's 741-741 and
Huh.
it's free 24/7 support.
And what's the word to
They can
text?
text you can text anything, but text share, SHARE.
Okay. Awesome.
Yep.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So I want to thank everyone who joined us again. Really appreciate you joining for these conversations. And I am just so grateful for you. The other thing that I will say in terms of self care to always remember is that self care is not selfish. I
No.
think that as moms, oftentimes we feel guilty for doing something for ourselves, like we're taking away from our children. But in fact, we're giving them more because we cannot pour out of an empty cup. And so when we fill it in with that self-care and self-love, it allows us to do even more and to be the amazing beings that we already are in a
Yes.
magnified way.
Yeah.
So, yes. And I also want to invite those who have already registered or those who are about to register that have a high school, college bound team to join us for the master class on this coming Thursday evening. It's going to be great. So definitely join us. We're talking about how to position your team to get in and get money for college.
Yeah.
So I look forward to seeing you all again. And thank you so much, Dr. Turner. Say hello to your
Thank
great
you.
family.
Oh,
So, yes, thank you
thank
so
you.
very much. Take
Wonderful.
care.
Take
Bye.
care.